Welcome back to my little channel. Today I'm going to address Justin Trudeau. Now don't get me wrong, he got a better life than I do. I mean, he's Prime Minister of Canada, but he's also an idiot. Really? Really? But you're just saying that. Yeah, but here's why. Just listen to him.
What a tremendous pleasure it is to be back in the Philippines, first of all, but to be here today for this event. It's something that I and our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Chrystia Freeland, who I think has been chatting with you already, have been very, very excited about, because Canada over the past couple of years has really made a deliberate focus on women's empowerment.
I have to love the fact that he considers himself a feminist. Considering that he's a man and leading a country in a country where another man is president, whilst both Canada and the Philippines had a woman as head of state. Now Canada obviously also has the Queen, but I'm not counting that one. No, Canada had a female prime minister and the Philippines had a female president. So who the fuck are you trying to say that, yeah, no, we're making great strides? Because both of them are more than a decade ago. So if we are making great strides, we're making great strides backwards, Mr. Trudeau.
And that happens a lot of different ways, whether it's through a Canada Child benefit that is helping a lot more women with that work-life balance that we know women struggle with far more than men because our society is just that way and still needs to evolve.
By all means, please enlighten us how women are suffering more than men, especially considering that suicide is mostly a man problem, homelessness is mostly a man problem, dying on the job is mostly a man problem. If you're going to war, you're going to be sent to war, which is obviously a man's job. Need I continue, Mr. Trudeau? Or are you going to actually give some evidence? Well, I'll give away the ending. No, he won't. But then again, have you ever met a feminist that has facts?
Or whether it's looking at encouraging women to get into science, technology, engineering, and math, and into areas in education that we know are extremely important and advancing.
Enlighten us, Mr. Prime Minister. How is that going? When we see in the Western world that women are more and more not going into the hard sciences, even though they are being coerced, motivated, even given grants, and still they choose not to. Explain to me why this is happening in such Western pearls where feminism is at the utmost reign supreme power, but when we look in Iran, where women have hardly any rights, we see women going into stem cell research. We see women going into, well, all sorts of science, but not in the free Western world. No, women there go into the softer sciences, where they can keep bitching and moaning on how bad they have it. Explain to me why this is.
Or mostly through women's economic empowerment, through looking at entrepreneurship, looking at reducing barriers for women's success in the workforce, looking at wage gap disparities, looking at how we can ensure that women are successful. And
so how is that going? Oh, and might I remind you that whilst at one point you keep talking about how you want to do the best for women, you are inviting in ISIS fighters to come and live in Canada. You do know that in the controlled areas of ISIS, women had no rights. You do know that in Islam, women have hardly any rights. So how do you see you trying to promote women whilst at the same time you holding back women? Can you explain that one? I'm sorry. No, you can't.
One of the things that we've taken on both at home and around the world is a feminist approach, which I know the word feminist still scares a few people, but it simply means recognizing that men and women are equal and should be equal, and second, that there's still an awful lot of work to do to get there. If you can say yes to both of those things, guess what? You're a feminist.
I know, feminists like to think that feminism stands for equality, but reality proved time and time and time and time again that this is not the case. Because if feminism truly is about equality, why is feminism against female genital mutilation but not against male genital mutilation? Why are feminists raving about female victims of domestic violence but ignoring male victims of domestic violence? Why are feminists pointing out the terrible, terrible situation of women living on the street but ignoring the fact that this happens to men? Egalitarian means we care about men and women because they're equal. Feminism doesn't care about men. So how is feminism for equality? Please, Trudeau or any other feminist out there that will take up the gauntlet, for the first time since I've been starting to ask people to answer this, give me one example how feminism truly is for equality and not for the supremacy of certain women. Because, don't get me wrong, feminism doesn't care about most women either.
And that approach, particularly when it comes to international engagement, is something that Christy and I have been working on very strongly. A feminist approach to foreign policy in general.
And the worst part is people will actually believe you when you say this, Trudeau, but do people realize how good and friendly Canada is with Saudi Arabia? You don't want to talk about women's rights in Saudi Arabia, by the way, but yeah, no, you're exporting feminism. No, mate, you're talking feminism. It's a talking point. It's not what you do, it's what you sell.
Very specifically, a feminist approach to international development policy, because it's not just the right thing to do, which of course obviously it is, but it's also the smart thing to do. We all know that empowering women to be successful is not just a single driver of economic success. It leads to compound effects as the community does better, as the village does better, as the entire economy of the country does better, the more women have pathways to success.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there's so much stupid in this that I'm going to, not even going to address it. I'm going to do what a green stag that I know does. He's going to say this: citation needed. So I'm just going to do that. Because you're full of shit, mate. The lies are too big to simply unpack. But at the other point, though, yeah, of course citation needed, but can you prove anything of what you're saying? Can you prove that forcing men out of the workforce so that more women can go into the workforce is good for the economy? Can you prove this? Because so far, no economist ever has. And then people will say, yeah, but he's not talking about forcing men out to get women in. But the thing is, he actually is. Because if women can get into the workforce whilst men are still there, then the workforce growth, of course, that's better for the economy. But what we see is that men are relegated to different functions, lower functions on average. So yeah, then it doesn't really work. It doesn't make the economy better.
That's why I'm very, very excited today to be joined by these three extraordinary women who will be able to share their story and illuminate me a little bit on the challenges faced here in the Philippines, but also the pathways to solutions. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not going to take up more time for an introduction. I want to hear from Jeannie, from Zara, and from Anya, and we're going to get into it.
Yeah, so this is where the original video ends. I didn't bother looking into the women that wanted to talk because, you know what, I'm 100% willing to believe that women have something to say. So there's nothing there for me. The thing is, our politicians, and this is not just Trudeau in Canada, but our politicians in the West, seem to be totally okay to spouting feminist rhetoric, even though they have zero evidence for it. And we take it as if it's normal. We take it as if it's fact. I don't understand this. It's painful. It's hurting our society. The identity politics that feminism has brought with it and I don't think feminism has caused it, but they are definitely spreaders of it, spreading the disease. They are destroying the traditional roles in our society, and one can ask whether those traditional roles are good or not. So I'm not even going to defend the traditional roles. The problem is they fill these traditions with bullshit. Men are now not allowed to be negative towards women. Men are not allowed to have criticisms. Men shouldn't talk for women. Men shouldn't defend women. Men should stand down. This is one of the reasons we see MGTOW movement, don't get me wrong, but the worst of it is that we see societies dwindling, disappearing. Look at Sweden. The women of Sweden are under attack by the migrants brought in by the feminist government of Sweden, and the men stand down. I don't hope anything will ever happen to anyone in my direct vicinity, because I'm not sure if I have it in me to stand down. Now, preferably, violence stays the monopoly of the state, and it's the state that deals with this. But unfortunately, in the Western world, most states have stopped dealing with this. And I rue the day, no, not rue it, actually fear it. I fear the day that men stand up and realize that once again we are called into the breach. Anyway, this is my little rant. I hope you enjoyed the little video. For those of you who have noticed, I figured out a way to animate my character ever so slightly. So I'm curious what you think about that. I obviously am curious what you think about the points I'm making. And criticism, as always, is more than welcome. I hope to see you all soon. At least next time. Oh, and I try to do a weekly hangout. So yeah, if you can join us there every once in a while. Topics are always welcome because I find myself struggling with them for the time being. Anyway, this is really where I'm going to end because otherwise I'm going to ramble on. See you all next time.